On this Father's Day, I was trying to think about a story about my dad that I could actually share in church. He was a very colorful man, shall we say. I remember once being around, maybe 9 years old, and my sister and my mother had this terrible habit of tickle attacks. If you ever had that experience. People, they just kind of jump on you and it just is all over. But the one thing I could always depend upon my father for was that when this awful attack happened and I cried out, he would always rescue me. That was a wonderful thing. It's wonderful to know that you have people in your life that will be there for you and protect you. And that's the beautiful image that I would at least like to hold up today on this Father's Day. The readings are full of this imagery. Yes, Job did have a lot of problems, as Doug pointed out. But Job also ultimately had to believe that God was with him. And ultimately, when he comes to this belief, right when he's at the very end, have you ever been at the end of your rope? That's when God speaks. And he gives them a larger perspective. We all have issues. We all have problems. We all need to be protected. But God speaks, and he gives them perspective. Were you there when the world was fashioned? Did you fix the sea? And he's not saying these things to demean Job's faith. He's saying these things just to echo how much his support is truly, truly there. And we have this same example in the gospel reading. This is a story that appears in all four gospels. And that's significant. Because when a story appears in all four gospels, it suggests what? That it was probably true in some crazy way. In all four gospels it appears, and the church used it throughout the ages to also talk about how Christ is present with us and the church throughout all the different ages of the church. Great persecutions, great difficulties. Christ continues to be present. We get another kind of crazy image. The storm's happening, and the disciples cry out, and what do we hear? Jesus is asleep on a pillow. What do you think about that? First, that kind of can seem like neglect, but the church also has a response to that. God's with us always. Always. The sleeping Christ becomes a symbol of the peace of Christ that's with us through all different types of scenarios in our lives that aren't peaceful. Christ is there. And when we wake up to that friendship of Christ always being there, that's when our storms get calm. That's the message of today. We have to learn how to be still. What happens when you and I are still? We fall asleep, right? And God is a great advocate of sleep. Sleep is so necessary. I talk to Josh about sleep all the time. Sleep is something that we all need. But sometimes, if every time we pray we fall asleep, that's great. But sometimes we have to kind of wake up and be refreshed so that what? We can hear God. We can be in a relationship with God. Now think about that. If you and your girlfriend, every time you're about to have a serious conversation, just fall asleep, what's going to happen? Your communication is going to be awful. You might be well rested, but your communication is going to be awful. Sometimes the greatest thing that we could do is get rest to come back to our lives so we can ask for the courage to be able to deal with things. The readings are all about the fact that Christ and God and the Spirit never leave us, no matter what type of issue we're having. God never leaves us. But we have to be awake to that and present to that. And that's one of the hardest things to do sometimes. Sometimes would we just rather stay asleep? Life has too many problems. Let's just go to sleep. But the problem with that is that we have to wake up at some point, right? And the problems and issues are still there. The church is trying to encourage us in a very strong way to say that Christ never ever shies away from that. And real miracles are possible when we just not know that Christ is present, but when you and I believe it. It's like the cultivation of a relationship. In high school, the great phrase is, I'm there for you, man. I'm there for you, man. I'm there for you, man, until the first crisis, right? I'm there for you until I have a crisis that I can't handle. Then I am out of there, right? Real relationships are about the ability to be able to move through the ages of our friends and our partners' ups and downs. That's real presence, isn't it? And when you and I feel truly supported that way, we have the courage to be able to live our lives in a confident way. And that's who Christ promises to be in our lives. So the homework is simple tonight. It's summer as of today, my favorite season. And summer is a lazy season and a crazy season. But what I want you to do over this summer is to try to take a nap here and there so that you can pray in a deeper way, right? Because you take a nap here or there and get some healthy rest here and there. You don't have to do it every day, but at least once a week. How about this? Once a week, I would like to, for you, I'm not going to say promise, but struggle. Once a week to struggle, to rest your mind, to rest your body, and to rest your heart so that you can hear how God is speaking to you. If there's something that's problematic in your life, I want you to get rest once a week. So once a week you can deal with whatever that is, even if it's asking for support in order to deal with it. That's holy rest. And prayer doesn't really become significant until we've actually done it in a way that makes an impact in our life.